Hey there, this is Natalie, and I've just finished watching the Made in Abyss movie, Dawn of the Deep Soul. I've been meaning to start making some reviews of different anime series and testing out a new, slightly less scripted virtual format for these, so I figured this was a good opportunity to have something new and interesting to talk to you guys about. But it is a dark movie, so as you can see, I'm wearing a nice somber dress for this one. Now, if I say it's dark, bear in mind that I am the person that likes to bring you all those extra gory bits from the ReZero web novel, so you know I'm telling the truth. The release of this movie was heavily impacted by the coronavirus pandemic, where a lot of movie theatres around the world just aren't operational at the moment, and so we weren't really sure when and how we were actually going to get this heavily anticipated arc of the Made in Abyss manga actually animated and on our screens. But it now has a fairly limited theatrical release, but you can also rent it to watch at home via streaming, so it's now possible to find out all this lovely stuff that was going on with Bondrewd and Nanaki that was hinted at the end of season 1. Now, I'm not a Made in Abyss superfan. I haven't read everything in the manga. I did have some spoilers before I went into watching this movie though, just because at the end of season 1 I was pretty curious about this setting and what was actually going on, and so I kind of went in the hole of looking things up online and watching videos about it, but I didn't go as far as actually reading it, so this stuff was mostly pretty new to me. I'm not going to spoil any of the big revelations in this movie because I appreciate that most of you probably won't have had a chance to watch it yet, and it's probably something that you're going to get more of an impact from if you don't go into it with some knowledge of what you're going to see. But I will talk about some of the more interesting kind of general stuff that you can get a feel from this new film, and what I thought about it in general. So what I like about Made in Abyss is that it has the one feature that will always guarantee that I will watch something and I'll keep watching it till the end, and that is a really good implementation of the big old mystery box. The Made in Abyss premise really is just that. There's a big hole and I want to know what's in it. And so do the characters, which is basically enough for me to want to go along with them on their journey. But I was also told before I started watching it that this was a disturbing kind of show, and to be honest with you, as I went into season 1 with that kind of hype, I really didn't feel that. I thought it was a good action adventure, but I didn't really get the reactions everybody was having to it, like, oh, it's so disturbing and dark and all that. I think one of my friends on Twitter actually said that there are Legend of Zelda dungeons that are more distressing than that anime, and I was kind of in the camp of agreeing with that. But with this arc, I really feel like it actually delivers on some of the unexpected darkness that I was expecting from the first season. The surprises, the sinister experiments, and the revelations that this abyss really does demand quite a lot from humanity if they want to explore its secrets. If you're a fan of the general ecological world building in Made in Abyss, then you'll be pleased to know there are some really terrifying creatures that you see right at the start, and they just give you another idea of the hostility and the general horror of some of the monsters that are living down there, although these creatures are pretty much heavily inspired by actual things that wasps and stuff can do in our normal non-abyssy world. And so yeah, imagine those wasps that can lay the eggs inside caterpillars that then keep the caterpillar alive and the larvae just eat their way out from the inside. It's kind of like that, only with people. You'll want to burn it with fire, and fortunately that's actually what happens to these things, so at least there's that. Also, you know how usually in anime the food looks really good and you're just watching it thinking, I could go for some of that? Yeah, not so much in Made in Abyss. They feast on some pretty disgusting looking slimy beasts in this, and yeah, I don't recommend watching it while you're having your dinner. But these early scenes are really just there to reintroduce us to this setting and to the main characters of Reg, Riko, and now their new companion Nanaki. The main story of this movie really begins when they meet the new character Prushka, who is voiced by the same lovely seiyuu as our girl Rem from ReZero. Like Rem, she's not going to be having a very good time. We learn in this movie the secrets of the white whistles that we've seen that all of the veteran cave raiders have, and that's something that Riko has kind of aspired to having for herself one day. She carries her mother's white whistle and had believed that this would give her access to the 6th layer, which is the point of no return for humans, and will be the very last point where she can still ascend back up the abyss, only suffering very, very, very painful side effects rather than losing her humanity altogether. In order to descend down into the 6th layer, she needs to be in possession of a white whistle, but unfortunately you need your own whistle for this, and these have to be forged in a way that's going to be revealed to you in the movie, and you can probably guess with this being Made in Abyss that it's not going to be some nice little crafting fetch quest or something that Riko's going to have to do. There are some implications to what we find out about this that will make us think more about what Riko's mother and other characters we've seen like Ozan must have had to go through and do to achieve the kind of status as high-ranking cave raiders that they achieved. It really raises questions about just what the Abyss demands from people who want to discover its secrets, and that's really at the core of this series and its general mood. We see that the ancient civilizations that we see remains of must have had some kind of way of dealing with this themselves, because most of this movie takes place in what was previously a ritualistic site for this ancient civilization that we and the characters don't really know very much about. But as we began to see in season 1, modern cave raiders have found ways to deal with the problems in the abyss themselves, and are still very serious about experimenting with new ways to address the curse of the abyss, and none of these are very pleasant. This is the core story of this movie, and we find out more about Bondrewd and what he's up to, along with where Nanaki was involved in these things before she met Reg and Riko. This all culminates in finding out the truth about Bondrewd himself, and some pretty intense and very exciting fight scenes where we get to see a bit more of what Reg can do. The revelations and plot of this movie are certainly interesting and a good addition to the Made in Abyss story so far, and I can really see why this arc was so strongly hyped by fans of the manga. It is an intense experience and has a strong emotional impact, but I do feel like in places it goes a little bit far with it, to the point where it almost feels a bit manipulative. There are times when you feel like scenes that are already sad enough, they kind of feel the need to dial things up to 11 by showing flashbacks and things that add to the general look at the terrible things happening to the cute children feel of it all. And these aren't really necessary. The things that are happening do have enough emotional impact as it is, and it's just a feeling that I've been getting from Made in Abyss in general, partly from the overly chibi cutesy character designs, that it almost doesn't trust itself to be as dark and disturbing as it wants to be, and feels like it needs to resort to, you know, making you sympathise with the characters just by having them look cute and vulnerable, or showing you what lovely people they were and all this sort of stuff. And it really doesn't need to do that. But to a point, I kind of feel like if you're in the mood to watch something like this, the emotional manipulation might not even be a bad thing. It kind of is what you're going in for. You're going in for something distressing and dark. And when you feel like watching something like that, maybe having them turn the screws a bit and make sure you feel milk every last drop out of the misery is maybe the right way to go with it. I don't know. But the only relaxing thing about this thing is the soundtrack. And it's as good as the one for the first season was, including featuring some of those really great tunes that we all remember from season 1. You know, like the one that goes and all of the other great hits that I like to listen to while I'm writing. The only other real bad point about this movie, and I think it's kind of impossible to really talk about Made in Abyss without mentioning this, is that, yeah, it isn't any better than the first arc when it comes to the sometimes there's some kind of creepy bits that aren't creepy in the right way, if you know what I mean. When you've watched the movie, you'll understand what I'm saying. There's too much talk of Reg's robot parts, and there's use of the words Papa Pole, which I really hope that Inori Minase was paid a lot of money to say that. That's all I'm saying about that. I don't enjoy that kind of stuff in here. I'm not someone who gets super outraged about these kinds of things in anime, but there is just this kind of gross feel to it when it's in this show for some reason. I don't really know much about the author, but there's certainly been some hints that, you know, he might be into that sort of thing. I don't know. But yeah, if you can just sort of put some cotton wool in your ears for those bits, I don't know. It's definitely worth watching. But yeah, it's not without those few creepy flaws that there were in the first season as well. Personally, I think you can either do the cute little chibi children in a scary world, or you can do dick jokes. You really can't do both. And this show does kind of attempt to do both. But moving on from that as swiftly as possible, I would definitely recommend this movie if you are a fan of Made in Abyss already. It really elevates the kind of foreboding and mystery that was in the first season, and it definitely makes you curious for more. It raises a lot of new questions and gives some hints towards answers of some of the old ones, but we still feel like we're very much still in the beginning of this story, and it will be good to see what happens as the manga progresses. I hear it keeps going on hiatus, so it might be a while before we do get to find out what happens next in this adventure, but hopefully it will get animated and we will all get to find out just what lies at the end of Riko's journey. Let me know what you thought of the movie if you've watched it, and also let me know if you like this new format. I'm planning to talk about some of the anime that I've been watching over the 2020 summer season as things start to wrap up this week, and so I'll be looking to bring you some more reviews in the coming days, as well as some more ReZero content as usual. Please leave a like if you did enjoy this video, and subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see more anime content. Okay, thank you for watching this, and I really hope to see you again soon.